Tadparam Paryaya Vidmahe Jnanalingeshwaraya Dhimahi Tanno Guruh Prachodayate Om. Om Yoga Maharishi Dr. Swami Gitananda Giri Guru Maharaj ki Jai. Puduvai Kalaimamani Puduvai Shakti Yogacharini Ammaji Meenakshi Devi Bhavanani Guru Mata ki Jai. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Namaste, Swagatam, Vanakkam, Vandanam, Suprapa, Subdinam, Bonjour, Buongiorno, Buonasera, Buonanotte, Huya More, Boreida, Kia Ora, Salamat Pagi, Ayu Bovan, Salom. Welcome to yet another scintillating Saturday. This Saturday is devoted to the greatest yoga team that I have known and well, the yoga world has known in recent times. A tribute to my beloved Swamiji and Ammaji, a team that came together on the 25th of February 1968, and by coming together gave me an opportunity to be born into this world of yoga. Not only to be born into a world of yoga, but to live a life of yoga, to imbibe yoga with every breath of my life, and to let yoga become part of each and every cell in this body. Not just the Annamaya, but the Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, and all the levels. Every cell at all levels getting percolated by yoga, thanks to this most amazing team of the past century. Swamiji was known as the Lion of Pondicherry, and he was truly a lion. Well, a lion has to have a lioness, and Ammaji has proved to be a lioness who is endowed with not only the strength, courage, vigor, but also that most bountiful love. In 1967, Swamiji came to Pondicherry and he was setting up Ananda Ashram at that time. And he had a student, Rajudev. Today we know Rajudev as one of the most senior members of our Gitananda family in USA. And Rajudev one day met Ammaji, and in those days there were very few places you would meet people. One would be the Aurobindo Ashram dining hall, where everybody went because the food was a bit cheap, or the Indian coffee house, which to this day has a name as one of the iconic places in Pondicherry. And Rajudev met Ammaji. Ammaji, who had left the USA and was traveling the world and had come upon the concept of yoga and made her way all the way down to Pondicherry. And as they were talking, Ammaji was talking about yoga, and Rajudev said, well, there's a guy I know. There's a guy I know who is setting up an ashram and is going to be starting some teachers training soon. Why don't you come and meet him? And so thanks to Rajudev, Ammaji met Swamiji that day. He was, I think it was on the first or second floor. He had a room in town. And after meeting him and spending some time there, as she walked down the stairs with Rajadev, she told Rajadev, I think I have met the person with whom I'm going to spend the rest of my life. The great Tamil poet, Deva Mahakavi, Kamban, he talks of the reunion of Rama and Sita. You know, as far as Valmiki goes, Rama is a human form. But for Kamban, he keeps on repeating us again and again in the Kamba Ramayana, the Tamil Ramayana. He keeps on repeating the fact that Lord Rama is God incarnate. He keeps on repeating that Ma Sita Devi is Ma Lakshmi Devi incarnate. And when Kamban talks about the first meeting in Mithila of Rama and Sita, Rama, Lakshmana and Vishwamitra, after vanquishing the demoness Tadakai, have come to Mithila to attend the Swayamvara of Sita Devi, where the Shiva Dhanush, the bow of Shiva, has to be lifted to win the hand of Ma Sita Devi. The day before the Swayamvara, as Rama and Lakshmana and most probably Vishwamitra walking through the city, Ma Sita Devi is up in the balcony and she notices Lord Rama. And at that time, Lord Rama notices Ma Sita Devi. And the eyes meet. This moment where the eyes meet is so beautifully brought out by Deva Mahakavi Kamban in the Kamba Ramayana. Annalum nokinan, avalum nokinan, annalum nokinan, avalum nokinan. He talks about how the eyes meet. And there he makes a beautiful statement. He says, Pirindavar koodinal pesal vendumo. Are words required? Are required any words when those who had separated come back together once again? And he talks about how the Milky Way, the Parkadal, has become a black hole, Karankadal, devoid of Mahavishnu and Mahalakshmi, who are on earth. So the Milky Way has become the black hole. It has become empty and dark. And he says, those two who were together, who were one, when they have separated and when they come back once again, are words needed? I think that moment where Amma met Swamiji was one such moment for me. Of course, along with Rajadev and so many of the others in those days, Eric Dornikoff from New Zealand and others were part of it. Zena came in, Ravi Daikma came in. You know, all these initial students of Swamiji who became part of the ashram folklore. And Amma was part of this first teacher training that Swamiji started in 1968. And at that point, the course went on and all the training went on. At the end of the course, Swamiji would have a Guru Dakshina. Initially, we used to have it once a month, and then it became once in 3 months, once in 6 months, and nowadays we don't even have it because To find students capable of giving back to the Guru has become so rare these days. You don't want to embarrass yourself by organizing a Guru Dakshina and nobody shows up. Lot show up to get, few show up to give. But anyway, in those days, one of the Guru Dakshinas during the course, Swamiji used to have this huge basket. There would be a big basket. And the students would come up to him, offer their respects and place in the basket the fruits, the vegetables, the flowers, the incense, whatever they wanted to offer him, some cash. And this basket at the end was collected by Swamiji and used for basically the ashram purpose. He never used anything for his own. It was always for the ashram, anything that came in. When it came to Ammaji's turn, she prostrated to Swamiji and went and sat inside the basket. And everybody's like, what's this lady doing? And she told Swamiji, she says, my Guru Dakshina, he is my life. What a beautiful Guru Dakshina her life has been for Swamiji. And Swamiji said, well, you have offered yourself, I take up the offer. And thus was formed this most amazing team. Growing up as the son, as a student, as someone who saw both of them from very close quarters. Very close quarters, and when you're at such close quarters with people, you often tend to see more the imperfections. You see the non-essentials rather than the essentials. And despite that tendency that we have, all I can say is that every moment of being their son, every moment being their student, has been a moment that has been transformational. Because they have lived that transformation. There are many people who can quote all the scriptures amazingly. They pronounce them and chant them perfectly. And not a single bit of the teaching comes into them as a part of their own life. There are many who can perform the most intricate practices, look great in the asanas and do all these complicated stuff. And then when you meet them, you realize that it does not touch the heart at all. But with Swamiji and Ammaji, yoga was their every breath. Yoga resonated, pulsated, danced through every breath that both of them took together. And so growing up, seeing this amazing relationship, an amazing relationship that wasn't perfect all the time. And they never tried to act as if it was perfect. As with any relationship, being husband and wife itself is bad enough. Being husband-wife is bad enough, but when your husband is your guru, when your wife is your sishya, oh my God, it becomes so complicated, so convoluted. And how both of them negotiated all these dangerous curves of that relationship. There were outbursts, of course, both of them shouting at each other. Amma never shouted back much, but she would just move away for some time. You never knew when lightning would strike, when there would be a thunderstorm. And yet, they realized that their coming together had a greater purpose. A greater purpose than what could have been achieved by either one of them alone. Because the sum of the parts is always greater than just what they are. It becomes the wholesomeness, the Purnam. And that Purnam is what both of them realized. That they had to be together, they had to stay together, they had to work together and push forward for the sake of yoga. Moments of disagreements were there. Moments of dismay were there. Moments of anger were there. Moments of disappointment were there. Of course, we are all human. And that is why this whole idea that the Guru is going to be this perfect person, throw that out. That is total junk, and throw it out. Because as long as we are a human being, we are not going to be perfect. Perfection is only achievable in that moment of Kaivalya. Till then, remember, we are imperfect. Both of them accepted the imperfections that were there. They realized there were the raw ends, the raw surfaces. And yet, they kept on working on it. That is what yoga is about. Never give up. The abhyasa and the vairagya that are essential for sadhana are the same qualities that are essential for a relationship. They are essential for life itself. They are life transforming tools. I think the fondest memory I will always have is of, them going out for a swim together. That was always something they really loved, and after I was born, that I threw the spanner into the works. But they used to love swimming together. That was something both of them loved. And then Swamiji continued his swimming. Amma sort of started to remember that there's this little boy that she had to take care, and so sort of moved a bit back, except when she had to jump into the wells to save this guy who thought he could walk on water. As a kid, I thought I could walk on water. Now I know I cannot. But there was a time that as a small kid, Amma would be on the other side of the swimming pool in Spain, and Swamiji and Amma would be teaching there, and I'm on this side, and I'm like, I'm just going to walk across the water and see my mother, Amma, and blah, blah, blah. And like those cartoon characters, they walk in air and then they look down and then they fall. I thought I could walk on water. Someone once wrote to an office and said, how can you call Dr. Ananda a yoga expert? Has he ever walked on water or flown in the air? I'm like, seriously? If that makes you a yoga expert, I'm not one for sure. Oh my God, what crazy ideas we have. But I had that idea. And jumping into wells and, jumping into rivers that were much bigger than me. And Amma having to dive in and save me. Her swimming skills came to good use at that time. But everything they did was together. They would sit and Swamiji would dictate letter after letter after letter. He would dictate the books, he would dictate messages, and Amma would be furiously typing out on her typewriter. She had amazing skill as a typist. Wow, what speed and perfection. And there would be the and Swamiji would be going on. It was like Veda Vyasa dictating the Mahabharata and Lord Ganesha writing it down. That type of thing that they had that agreement. Like that Swamiji and Ammaji. Ammaji was definitely the scribe for Swamiji. So the Ganesha for the Veda Vyasa in that regard. For all these creations, be it the yoga step by step, the samyama, whatever it may happen. And in between, while this would be going on, Swamiji would be dictating all these higher laya kriyas and all the samyama and all of this, and Amma would be typing it out, and someone would come, Amma, what is for lunch today? We don't have tomatoes. Can I send someone to buy them? Can I have 10 rupees to go to the market? And there would be all this going on, and the gardener coming and saying, the water hose has, broken, what do I do? And then the watchman comes and says, somebody is stealing 2 potatoes and taking them home from the ashram kitchen. And then some student coming up and saying, all my fellow students are so nasty to me. And all this would be going on. And Ammaji and Swamiji sitting there, and Swamiji dictating and Amma doing it. And all that same, at the same time, making sure everything was done the way it needed to be done. Yoga as skill in action. Yoga karma sukaushal. When they travel together, again, amazing experiences traveling with Swamiji and Ammaji to all the temples, all the ashrams. What beautiful experiences they used to bring together for so many. And the work with the children. I think one of the greatest contributions of both Swamiji and Ammaji has been for the children of Pondicherry. The children and the youth of Pondicherry who were given an opportunity to imbibe Indian culture, yoga, Sanatana Dharma, the dance, the music, the Bhavanani, the Karnataka music, Sangeetam, and swimming in the swimming pool, and food for everyone. How many thousands used to eat every week in the Swami Madam? How many thousands were put through school because of them? How many thousands lives were changed by the input they gave into these young ones? Even now, if you walk around Pondicherry and you meet anybody who's into the 40s and 50s, I can guarantee you they would at least once have had food at Swami Madam. At least once they would have had food at Swami Madam. You may be lucky that most probably they've also come to some yoga classes. That is the impact. The impact that Swamiji and Ammaji created is an impact that hit right at the sweet spot, which is where the youth and the children need the cultural education, the vitality of the cultural education, the moral, ethical education of yoga, along with the physical dynamics that enable each and every one of those young people to become a better human being, a noble human being. If not a yogi, at least be the best you that you can be in this life. And many of them are. Lives were transformed, for sure, no doubt. And the way they worked together to create Swami Madam out of nothing, a very basic structure, becoming this most amazing institution that was too good to be true and had to be destroyed. And they didn't give up. Anybody else would have given up with the problems the government gave them. And no, keep going forward, because the tough don't give up when times are tough. Keeping moving forward and establishing ICYER on the beach. Keeping moving forward, establishing Yoganjali Natyalayam in 1993. Making sure that Yoga Life was put out every month without a break, even when we were kicked out of the Swami Madam and there was no bank balance, there was no place to stay. In fact, Swamiji and Ammaji stayed in the hospital at Jipma for 2 weeks because there was no place to go. They didn't give up. Anybody else would have packed their bags and said, to hell with you guys, we are leaving India. Instead, they said, dig in your heels and do what you need to do. What a beautiful life lesson. Without hatred, despite all the stuff that was done, there was disappointment. There was disappointment for sure. I would say that both Swamiji and Ammaji were very disappointed that efforts to do the right thing were rewarded with such painful suffering. But this is par for the course. Anybody who's tried to do good for society has had to go through this. It's ironical that we do that. But never giving up, never letting the negativities push them down, never letting negative emotions come in and say, to hell with it and let's get out of this. To say, we are here for a purpose, stickability, dedication, determination, and never giving up at all. And remembering the bigger purpose. Why are we here? We are here to fulfill our dharma. And that dharma of Swamiji and Ammaji was a coexistent dharma. That is why they had to come together, they had to stay together for the sake of the fulfillment of the dharma itself. Because if they didn't, the dharma couldn't be fulfilled. The essentiality of both of them being together as one, where the two became one, where the Dvaitam became Advaitam. That is where the impact came. Swamiji would be teaching and Ammaji would be either in the class or getting the ashram going on, constantly trying to be in touch with what was going on. Every moment, alertness to the Guru. Every moment. And Swamiji was a tough taskmaster. He had these impossible dreams always, and he would give these plans that were improbable. And so many times, Swamiji would say, Meena, we are going to do this. And Amma's like, Swamiji, do you know our bank balance is zero? Nil bank balance. And you want to have this huge plan. Swamiji said, no, it will come. It will come. And more often than not, something would happen and there would be money in the bank and it would happen. Swamiji used to say he didn't have siddhis, but he had a riddhi. Riddhi means a psychic prosperity. And as I grow older, I realize what he meant. Because when your aspirations are true, when your aspirations are in tune with the universe will provide for it to manifest. Now, it doesn't mean the universe is going to come and stand in front of you and say, hi, how are you? It's going to come in the form of somebody. And that person is going to help you in some way or the other. And this is why that absolute Ishvara Pranidhana, Atman Prasadanam that manifested through them in all the activities. And Swamiji supporting Amma to go on and learn Bharatanatyam with Adiyar Lakshman sir. What an amazing impact that has had on Pondicherry. Today in Pondicherry you have thousands of dancers, and most of them today are dancing because of the kickstart given by Swamiji and Ammaji. Of course, as is with human nature, people tend to forget those who have helped them. But that's part and parcel of it. And then, of course, both of them being very clear about my birth. Swamiji has talked to me about how I was conceived, where I was conceived, why I was conceived. And there was this coming together of energies for purpose. And then realizing that, okay, this guy has to be put on the right track. This guy has to be put on the right track so that he will fulfill his dharma. And giving me opportunities from the childhood to learn the essential aspects of our culture. Learn the language skills. Swamiji used to say often, he said, I was not born a Tamil, I will die a Tamil. It was a beautiful statement he used to make. That love for the culture and making sure that I got exposed to the mantra chanting at a young age, the Tamil classical literature, the Tamil music, the classical music, the rhythmic percussion, the mridangam, and of course Amma starting me off on my Natyam dance journey and then enabling me to learn from my most amazing Adiyar Lakshman sir. And then giving this atmosphere, the atmosphere of the ashram, which was a Gokula. And that Gokula atmosphere giving me an opportunity to grow into myself in a natural way, imbibing all of these qualities as I grew. And then a point coming where they said, well, you have to go to school and get an official education. So off to Kodaikanal at the age of 12 plus. But till then, making sure that I had the structure. Ammaji and Swamiji always understood that instruction requires a structure. The structure is a very important part of instruction. And they created a healthy structure, a safe environment, a supportive environment in which all of this could manifest. And then, of course, giving me the opportunity to be exposed to so many people from so many cultures, so many languages, so many countries, different religions, different ways of eating, different ways of thinking. Of course, Swamiji wanted me to study in Jipma, and he was like, if you don't study in Jipma, there's no use in studying medicine. But Ammaji and, of course, Renu Kaka, they consoled Swamiji and said, well, if not Jipma, there's another place, and it's also Jawaharlal Nehru. So Jawaharlal Institute of Postgraduate Medical Education, Jipma, went to study at Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College. Amma used to often say that, she always got what she wanted, but it was always a bit warped. And she said, I think, my prayers to the universe are not very clear. She says, I must not be giving clear, instructions to the universe, because she wanted an ashram on the beach. And so, yes, we got out of Kabliswami Madam and came on to ICYER. The beach was still far away, and then the tsunami and the cyclones brought the beach right to our doorstep. She wanted, me to be in Jawaharlal Institute of Medical Education, Jipma, and I got into Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College, Baroda. This is how she used to talk about it. Swamiji used to tease her about that. The lessons that this team gave us, Swamiji and Ammaji, the lessons they give us are the lessons that no relationship is perfect. No relationship is perfect, and don't expect this perfection, because what happens is everybody puts on a show, and so you think, oh, their relationship is perfect, it is mine that is flawed. Every human relationship is flawed. And that's just part of the understanding we need to gain, and see how we can tackle it, how we can deal with it. What is it we can do about it? How can we learn to work together? Because it is the working together where the different machine parts work together that bring out the production that happens. Now, if everything was stuck together all the time and perfectly fitting, nothing would happen. So there has to be give and take. There has to be moments of breakdown. There has to be moments of challenges. Swamiji and Amma once got into a very, very heated argument, and Ammaji left Swamiji. Yes, she got as far as Chennai. She got as far as Chennai and went to Lakshman sir, and she says, I'm leaving him. And Lakshman sir is like, sit down, have a cup of coffee, and we'll talk about it later. And she used to tell us, she said, I realized my life was nothing without him, because we were a team. Swamiji on his own was not the team. Ammaji on her own was not the team. Both of them staying together, working together was what the team was all about. I remember Swamiji getting mad at Amma once and walking off. We had come home from something. It was about 8 in the evening. We were in Rainbow Nagar, and Swamiji got mad at everybody and says, I'm going away. He started walking off. Must have been 14, 15, I don't remember. And I was like, oh my God, Swamiji is walking away. What are we going to do? Well, keep walking behind him. Those were not the days of mobile phones. We didn't even have a phone in the ashram, let alone a mobile phone. So keep walking with him. A couple of kilometers we walked, and then I caught up with him and I said, where are you going? He said, I'm going to go to Tiruvannamalai and live in a cave. I'm like, what about us? You and your mother take care of the ashram. I'm going to live in a cave in Tirunamalai with all the yogis hiding there. I'm like, okay, but do you have money for the bus? He didn't even take his purse. Swamiji never carried anything with him. He just had his dress, that's all. He's like, no, but I have a watch. I can sell my watch and I'll have money to go to Tirunamalai and stay in the cave. I'm like, come on, Swamiji. I know how much you like that watch. He liked that watch a lot. That was a beautiful watch and it's with him in his samadhi also. Many people felt I should keep it as a memorabilia. I'm like, no. Him and that watch are one. So it's in there. I don't know if it's still ticking, but it's in his samadhi with him. I'm like, you're not going to sell a watch. Then I'm like, I think you are hungry and I'm hungry. And I think that was the first time I had to talk to someone and get them back. And so we finally got to a restaurant and we had a dosa together, a cup of coffee, and cooled things down, and then talked to him and told him how much him and Ammaji being together meant to me, and what I saw in both of them being a team. And by that time Amma caught up with us and, well, family got together again. I have not shared these things publicly before. But we need to understand, because it's so easy to fall in the trap of thinking everybody else's relationship is so good and mine is bad, and so it is all my fault. We all fall into that trap. A relationship is what you make of it, not what is given to you. We all want that perfect relationship to be given to us. No. The relationship is what you have and what you make of it. That's what they kept on showing me. They may have disagreed with each other, but they didn't lose track of the purpose for which they had come together. They never lost track of that. The Dharma was foremost in their mind at all times. And how Swamiji loved Amma. Amma often has told us, every day when she got up in the morning, there would be a flower next to her pillow. Every day. Doesn't matter if you had fought with your wife or not. Make sure she knows she's loved. Doesn't matter if you have fought with your husband or not. Make sure he knows he's loved. You can disagree and still love each other. You can fight and still love each other. You can punch each other in the nose and still love each other. Because we are human. We are not yet the divine. We are the divine in progress. We are the divine with amnesia, but we are not divine yet. We are human. And the moment we understand our frailties as a human being and understand a relationship is what we make of it, well, suddenly the perspective changes. And that is why they have had such an impact on the world. An impact whose ripple effect is going to keep going for thousands of years. Often in many of these new big organizations, they love to have all this code of conduct. Because there's so much a problem with yoga teachers and gurus and students, and so they have to have a dozen pages of what to do, what not to do and all. And often I'm sent these things and asked to review it and give my comments. And I say, I'm not even going to comment on this. Because, your whole idea that a teacher and student shouldn't have a relationship, I understand where they come from. But I say, if I accept exactly what you have said, my father coming together with my mother would have been totally wrong according to your ethical standards. And I say, so according to your ethical standards, I am ethically wrong. And I don't exist ethically. And I say, I refuse to accept that. Because Swamiji and Ammaji coming together, despite the vast difference of ages, a nearly 4-decade difference between the age when they came together. And yet, this, what could be called a controversial union in some perspectives, leading to something that has stood out as a lighthouse of a true living yoga tradition because of their efforts. And that is why we need to understand that all these standards we are creating, all these rules we are creating, we should not get caught in the letter and miss the spirit. What is the spirit? What is the intent is often lost in this. And again, I think one of the guiding lights of my life itself is that to make sure that I live in a way that their union is justified at the highest level of yoga itself. So it is part of my dharma to live in a way that their coming together, however controversial or non-standard it could have been, that it is for the highest dharma. Now, many years later, I remember in 1993, we celebrated the 25th anniversary, which is also the 25th anniversary of the Ashram. And all the students came together, so many of them who had learned from Ammaji and Swamiji, came together and performed at ICYER. What a beautiful tribute it was, Guru Vandanam to Ammaji and Swamiji, offering their love and affections. And now looking back, it means so much because in 1993, December, Swamiji left the body. And the fact that all these young people who had trained with them could come back and offer their art as a Guru Dakshina. It was a very special time. I remember all of the senior members of the family in those days. Gajendran was there, Udayanathan, Saravanan, I remember Ramani was there, Dinakaran, Prabhavati, Saraswati, Devasena, Lalita, the whole team, Gajendran, and I think at that time Kanimuri was a small kid, she may have done something, and all of them came together. What a beautiful offering it was. 25th February we did it, 1993. Well, 8 years later, when Devasena and I were getting married, we were looking for a good day. And as the days were told, these are the possible days, I said, we are so close to February. Does 25th of February look like a good day? And they said, well, it's a very auspicious day. And so that is why Devasena and I also got married on the 25th of February. So we are always celebrating a double anniversary here, Swamiji and Ammaji, and Devasena and myself on the 25th of February. Many, many years later, two of my very dear students, Daya and Reena, they decide to have a child. And well, what day will that child, Deganand, be born? Well, no prizes for guessing now. 25th of February. Now imagine, you cannot plan these things, okay? You cannot plan that your child will be born on Dr. Sir and Devasena Mrs. and Swamiji and Ammaji's anniversary. You cannot plan it, okay? And it happened. Well, that's great. Deganand was born. And then a few years later, again Reena was pregnant and we started joking about it. And you know what? Again, the second child, Hasini, she is also born on 25th February. And that is why I say these are plans that are made in the heavens. These are plans made by the divine. These are not human-made plans. That Swamiji and Ammaji's anniversary becomes Devasena and my anniversary. And then Deganand and Hasini are born on that same day. It just shows that these connections go across lifetimes. We often miss these connections because we are so focused on the external aspects. Don't focus on the external aspects of relationships. Focus on the intrinsic inner aspects. Don't ask what a relationship gives you. Ask what you give that relationship. And just remember, no relationship is perfect. Swamiji and Amma are a living example of it. And despite that, they worked on it, smoothing out those edges that were imperfect. Until today, they have shown us what a perfect relationship can be. How two people, two one-of-a-kind human beings, as my dearest Dr. John Mumford in Australia used to tell me, two one-of-a-kind parents coming to produce another one-of-a-kind human being. What a beautiful compliment from someone I love and adore deeply, Dr. John. Two one-of-a-kind individuals. Amazing. You look at Swamiji on his own, amazing. You look at Ammaji on her own, amazing. The best of the best. And then they come together. What an amazing team we have been blessed to learn from. And that is why, even to this day, Swamiji and Amma, they continue to share us their love, their knowledge, their wisdom. Every day. Last night we had gone out and Ammaji is like, when will you be back? Where are all of you? Are you safe? The love that continues to shine. And that love can be shared with others. This is where each and every one of us who is part of this Guru Parampara, a living tradition of yoga. We don't claim to be a perfect tradition. We don't claim to be the best tradition. No, not at all. I have again and again said that I respect all the traditions. I understand within their own context, every tradition is legitimate and has its own perfection. But one thing I know, very few traditions are willing to stand up and accept the imperfections, accept that we are human, and share with love, constantly trying to grow. The interaction between members of the tradition enable us all to grow. No one is higher, no one is lower. We are all walking the path together. And that is a path that Swamiji and Ammaji have given us, have shown that it can be walked, have shown what it is to walk that path. What can we do? As I tell Ammaji, my whole life is my tribute to you. My every breath is my tribute to you. I think that is the only way we can give back. Like Ammaji jumping into the Guru Dakshina basket and giving herself to her Guru forever. Can we give of ourselves to the tradition, to yoga, to life, to the universe forever? May we all be blessed to follow our Dharma. Be blessed wherever you are and be a blessing wherever you are. Hari Om Tat Sat.